Good Monday. Welcome to another edition of Morning Scone. Mondays are always fun after a series sweep. Mondays are even more fun after a series sweep that ends in a walk-off jack. Admittedly, amazed by what I saw, but the old adage about good teams find a way to win games and bad teams find a way to lose game that played out Sunday at Alex Box Stadium. Even if we'll talk about the starting pitching and the standings and everything that's happening as a result of yesterday. But man, just go straight to the ninth inning and look at what unfolded. You start the inning, Tennessee commits an error on a grounder. How different is the game at that point? You could even go back to Saturday. I mean, the first, same thing happened on Saturday. First batter of the game, error on Tennessee, and then things just snowballed on them. Then after the error, I don't know what Tony Vitello is doing in the ninth inning, implementing a shift. When LSU just needs to get the merry-go-round going, just to get base runners, they shift against Bo Jordan, and he beats the shift, hitting the ball through the right side. Then another error. Then they plunk Antoine Duplantis in the back, and it's just like when you're a bad team and that sort of Alex Box mojo gets rolling, even good teams, sometimes it can be hard to overcome. I saw a stat from Todd Polites. Then, of course, Austin Bain was fastball hunting, hit the double, which was awesome to see. And then Fiducia struck out and Cabrera got the homer. First time LSU's had a walk-off homer since Chris Shambra, Calico, in the Super Regional against ULL. And I saw an amazing stat from Todd Polites out at LSU. By the way, if you don't follow Todd Polites on Twitter, you should. I think it's at @TPolites, Politz. But if you just love sort of random facts, said LSU was 1-302 in games where it trailed by 4 runs or more going into the ninth inning. The only win was the Rally Possum game against Arkansas a few years back. Now this is only the second win in 303 opportunities for LSU when trailing by 4 in the ninth. It's just, what you saw yesterday was inexplicable. It's one of the reasons I love the game of baseball, because it really is, with no game clock, it's never over until the final out's recorded, and weird things can happen in baseball, and it did yesterday. So you credit LSU for putting the pressure on and making the plays in the ninth, and certainly you look at Tennessee and go, ugh, it's not a good baseball team. They were both teams committed 3 errors, actually all 3 but were by Jake Slaughter for LSU on Sunday, which we can certainly talk about Slaughter and the weekend he had here in a bit as well. But big jack for Cabrera. He was 1 of 5 for the day. It was his only hit, and he came up with a pretty big one with the home run. That's something that no doubt he'll remember forever, and it's an awesome moment for LSU. And in part, that's such a big deal because when you look at the standings, right, this is why LSU needed the sweep this weekend, okay? So Ole Miss played Vanderbilt, and so again, just if you're coming into the weekend, LSU was sorry, I'm pulling up right here the standings. LSU coming into the weekend was 3rd in the West. 2 games behind Arkansas, 1 game behind Ole Miss. Well, Ole Miss won the first game against Vanderbilt and then lost a doubleheader yesterday. They were swept in a doubleheader yesterday, so they lost the series. Arkansas took 2 of 3 from South Carolina. So if you look at the standings, LSU gained a game on Arkansas and 2 games on Ole Miss. So actually, Arkansas at 10-5 leads the West. LSU's second at 9-6. Then Ole Miss is there at 8-7. They're tied with Texas A&M, who's 8-7. A&M swept Alabama this week. So A&M now has won 5 of 6 conference games, and they went from 3-6 in the cellar to 8-7, winning record, tied with Ole Miss for 3rd, a game behind LSU in 2nd, and 2 games behind Arkansas. So it's why early in the season, when you see struggles or you lose a series, especially road series like LSU did at Vanderbilt, it's so important to recognize there's so much baseball left to be played. And there are opportunities like LSU had this weekend to play a bad team and bolster your record. So they did that. They're at 9-6 now in the conference, and they're right back on track for the projection that I know my pick for them before the season was 19-11 in the conference. I certainly didn't foresee injuries to Josh Smith and Brant Broussard and not having Nick Storrs. I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened, but you credit this team right now for being where they are and overcoming a lot of that. So they go to South Carolina this week. We will talk plenty about that. Carolina was beaten 2 out of 3 at home this week by Arkansas, and Arkansas is a really good team. So, and Carolina managed to steal one from them. So we'll talk plenty this week about South Carolina and LSU going up to Columbia. The other, it's amazing that this has actually been knocked down the importance list of what happened on Sunday, or really through the entire weekend, but the walk-off homer will do that. But it's the whole staff approach that LSU implemented on Sunday. And this you saw it. I say this often, winning masks a lot of deficiencies. And I think you saw a little bit of that this weekend on Sunday. Because they won on Sunday, the tendency is going to be to say, oh, see, look, they could do the whole staff thing and win. And Tennessee's a bad team, and it took something that's happened once in the previous 302 attempts for LSU to overcome a 4-run deficit in the ninth. Now, Tennessee pitched backwards. We talked about that all week as well. Will Neely was their best pitcher, and he was basically a couple outs away from a complete game. 3 outs away from a complete game. He went out to start the ninth. But so not everyone's going to have their best guy going on Sunday when you're trying to do the whole staff thing, but Fontenot got the start, 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, did what he does, had 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, but he did allow the run. They brought in Labus, and that's the concern. See, this is the issue with the whole staff approach. If you're going to run out, and LSU threw 7 guys on Sunday, if you're going to run out 7 pitchers, you're counting on 7 guys to have their stuff that day. And that's just not always a really plausible scenario. So Fontenot got you off to a pretty good start, although he allowed a run. But then Labus came in, and he gives up 3 hits. He gives up the 3 runs. He only had the 1 strikeout. But 1 inning pitched, and he gave up 3 runs. He gave up the big homer. But it's like that's the problem. And maybe Paul Maneri's assumptions about A.J. Labus not being ready to pitch to SEC hitters is valid, considering he went out there for that 1 inning and got touched up. So then you go to Peterson, and Peterson did what he gave up a hit, but got you through the 4th. You went to Beck, who was awesome for 2 innings, and then you went to Nick Bush, and Bush has been so good for you all year, and Maneri even said Bush would have been maybe his choice to start on Sunday. I'm a little surprised they didn't start Nick Bush. But Bush went out there and he gave up 3 runs. And yeah, there were errors, but to give up the 3 runs and only 1 of them earned, but he walked 2 guys. He just had 1 strikeout, which is atypical for Nick Bush, who's been a good strikeout pitcher for LSU this year. 2 guys that have been good for you, Bush out of the bullpen and Labus in the midweek, when they were on the bump, allowed 6 runs. So that's the tough part about going whole staff, is you're counting on 7 guys all to get out there and have their good stuff. So all right, so what do you do? I don't know. I mean, I would have liked to have seen what could have happened potentially with Gilbert on Saturday when starting Saturday when you had this offensive explosion. Then you would have had Mikhail Hilliard on Sunday to go up against Will Neely. And maybe that's a very different ball game, and you don't need the heroics and all that stuff. So there's merit to both arguments. Going for the series win in your first 2 games and having a chance to sweep on Sunday. But there's also merit to the counter argument, which is if you split the first 2, you'll have an advantage every Sunday to give yourself a chance to win a series. So it didn't work out that way against A&M, obviously, because they lost Game 3 against a really good pitcher for A&M, but with Mitchell Kilkenny. So I'm interested to see if they continue with the whole staff approach or if they try something different. Maybe, my guess is since this worked, they got the win, this is what they're going to do again. But, Paul's a guy that tinkers, and if something's not working, he's going to try to see if he can reshuffle the deck. But one thing I think that's for certain you're going to keep seeing, at least until Josh Smith comes back, certainly, is Bo Jordan leading off, because the offense was just much better there with him as the table setter and being able to move Zach Watson down in the lineup. So all things considered, man, really, it's a great weekend for LSU when they needed a sweep against a bad team. They went out and got it. Yes, it was an unconventional way to get a sweep with the walk-off in the ninth, coming back down 4 runs, but They got it when they needed it. They're in second in the West right now, and they've positioned themselves with a good weekend in South Carolina. If they go win this series, then your season comes down positioning-wise to the following 2 weekends when you're at Ole Miss and you're home against Arkansas. So LSU goes on the road for back-to-back weekends now, South Carolina and Ole Miss. And this is kind of going to set up what they're playing for down the stretch. Are they playing for a national seed? Are they playing for a regional host site? Are they playing, if they go to South Carolina and get swept, are they playing just to get in? So, but it's a great time of year, man. When April comes around and you're playing meaningful baseball and you have fun endings like you did on Sunday, it's pretty cool to watch. So, I should have mentioned this in the onset. If you're just watching our page for the first time, red subscribe button, hit it, please. Subscribe to the channel. You would be my best friend in the world. If you go to my channel, you'll see all the different playlists, whiskey reviews, there's media appearances I've done, just fun videos on the internet like me doing the Dancing for Big Buddy thing a few years back, random rants, pop-ins on Eagle 98.1 with Scotty Drake. So go peruse the playlist on the YouTube channel and enjoy, and please subscribe. In the meantime, have a great week, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning.